In the vast darkness, there are things that watch and wait. They call it the Void Constrictor. Tonight, we'll tell its story, if you dare to listen. Welcome to Darkverse AI. Let the darkness consume you. It started with a signal, an otherworldly frequency that no one could explain. The researchers at Outpost Epsilon, perched on the edge of civilization, were the first to intercept it. It was a low, oscillating hum, almost like a hiss, but woven with a pattern that suggested intelligence. They thought they had stumbled upon proof of extraterrestrial life. They weren't wrong. They were just terribly, fatally unprepared. Dr. Mallory Hastings, head of the team, was the first to notice the anomalies. Communications between Epsilon and headquarters began to degrade. Static overtook their transmissions, and strange shadows flitted through the perimeter cameras. But it wasn't until the night of the 23rd that things spiraled into chaos. The audio log from that night was the last coherent record from the outpost. "It's here! My God, it's inside! Everyone seal the lab! Now!" Dr. Hastings' voice was panicked, trembling with fear. Screams followed, accompanied by a wet, slithering sound. "It's looking at me! I can't move!" someone whispered, their voice distant and hollow. Then, static overtook the recording. When a rescue team arrived days later, they found the compound eerily silent. Doors hung ajar, flickering lights casting grotesque shadows on the walls. The first bodies were discovered in the control room. They were entwined in something organic, something alive. The investigators later described it as an iridescent scaled material, wrapped so tightly around the corpses that the flesh had begun to fuse with it. The victims' faces were frozen in expressions of unspeakable terror. And then there was the lab footage, grainy but unmistakable. The creature moved with a sinuous grace, its elongated torso gliding through the halls. Its scales shimmered with an otherworldly glow, reflecting the dim emergency lighting like liquid mercury. And its eyes, those luminous, unblinking orbs, they seemed to pierce the very soul. The footage showed it observing Dr. Hastings. She froze, her body unnaturally still. The creature's gaze was like a command, compelling her to approach. And then it struck. Its body coiled around her with terrifying speed, the strength of its constriction bending metal railings and snapping her bones like dry twigs. Her screams cut off abruptly. But the Void Constrictor wasn't merely a predator. It was intelligent. The rescue team discovered strange markings carved into the walls, symbols no one could decipher. And the signal? It had changed. It wasn't just a hiss anymore. It carried words, spoken in a guttural alien language. Linguists later theorized it was a warning, or perhaps a taunt. One by one, the rescuers fell. Their equipment failed, their minds clouded by an oppressive hypnotic force. The survivors described hearing the hiss, a sound so low it was felt rather than heard. It disrupted their thoughts, made their ears bleed. And then they saw it, emerging from the shadows, its claws scraping against the floor, its eyes glowing brighter than ever. They tried to run, but the thing was faster. And when it caught them, it didn't just kill them. It toyed with them, coiling its body around their trembling forms, forcing them to look into its eyes before squeezing the life out of them. The final survivor's body was found near the outpost's edge. He had written something in the dirt before succumbing to his wounds. Just one word: run. The rescue effort was called off, but a second team was sent, not to recover survivors, but to destroy the outpost. They claimed to have succeeded, reporting that the facility was razed and the signal source destroyed. And for a time, the signal went silent. Months later, strange occurrences began again. A research vessel passing through the sector reported faint hissing over its comms. Another outpost on a nearby planet discovered similar markings carved into their walls. Each incident grew closer to inhabited worlds, each sighting more harrowing than the last. The last known encounter was reported by a deep space mining crew. Their ship's black box was recovered, containing only one haunting audio log. It's not just here, it's learning, watching. It knows we're afraid. Don't listen to the hiss. Don't look into its eyes. Don't. The voice cuts off into static, followed by a low, unending hiss. Outpost Epsilon's story has become an urban legend among deep space explorers. Some dismiss it as a cautionary tale, a warning to those who would delve too greedily into the unknown. Others insist it's real, a harbinger of something far more dangerous than humanity can comprehend. And the worst part? The signal persists, growing louder, growing closer. If you ever hear that low, insidious hiss, if your comms flicker and your mind begins to blur, don't look for the source. Don't try to understand, just run. Because if it sees you, it's already too late.